Robert has returned once again to Jesus' hometown of Nazareth. He's come to visit an archaeological site in the city that is known to have existed during Jesus' lifetime, to meet with archaeologist Yardena Alexandra.
So, what are we standing on now?
At the moment, we're standing on the courtyard of a Roman period house, and we're talking about the 1st century CE.
That is, during the time that Jesus lived in Nazareth.
Yes.
And these stones were here 2,000 years ago.
Absolutely. This is the bedrock, and so it has to be here.
It is gloriously conceivable that as a man lived there up to the age of 29, or say, that it is conceivable that even if he didn't live here, that he walked here. And I find that unbelievably exciting. It's lovely just to feel underneath my feet the possibility.
But this is more than a place where Jesus might have stood. There are clues here to the harsh reality of life that he and fellow Jews suffered under Roman rule.
Now, this hole here, what do you think that is?
This pit was built in a way that it would be camouflaged and wouldn't be visible, because this area was covered over again, possibly with some stone slabs, possibly with some wood or a mat or something. And beneath it, this pit was intended not to be seen.
Deep in the bedrock, the residents of this Nazareth house dug 3 bell-shaped chambers. They are from 5 to 5.5 feet high, big enough to store food and more.
The Romans were taxing the produce, and maybe they wanted to hide some of the produce. And more specifically, at times of crisis like war, the people who lived in these Jewish villages needed a place to hide.
One thinks of those early years of Jesus in Nazareth, as a boy and then as a young man, just getting on with life. But underneath that, there is always the undercurrent of a certain amount of danger. It's not quite what it seems to be.
The residents of this 1st century house were hiding from the violence and political turmoil that stalked the country. It came after the death of the master politician, King Herod.
As so often, after the long rule of a very powerful king, succession was a real difficulty. And Herod's sons and other claimants to the throne started a fight amongst each other. There was rebellion in the kingdom and general social disorder. As it so often did, the Romans moved in their own big hitters to take control.
There was unrest across the entire kingdom, which was split up between Herod's heirs. Roman legions, commanded by the governor of Syria, surged through the region, crushing the revolts with standard brutality. This was the world in which Jesus grew up. The memories of this violence would have remained fresh in people's minds, symbolized for many in a city just 4 miles from Nazareth called Zeffirelli. According to the Jewish historian Josephus, during a violent Jewish uprising in 4 BC, the Romans razed the city to the ground. Herod's successor, his son Herod Antipas, started a massive rebuilding program.